Welcome to the Edge of NFT podcast with your hosts, Jeff Kelly, Ethan Janney, and Josh Krieger. We aim to bring you not only the top 1% of what's going on with NFTs today, but what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts and the business side, but also the human element of how NFTs are changing the way we interact with the things that we love. This podcast is for the futurists and dreamers, the disruptors and creators, the fans and connectors, and the makers and doers that are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
Exciting. I hear we have a special hot topic spotlight, Ethan. Is that true?
That is true, Josh. You've heard correctly, and we've just been joined by some special guests as part of this hot topic. You'll know them as Rad Laser Falcon and Danko, and I'll give a little bit of background, and we'll have a chit chat with them. They've been kind enough to join us for the sponsored hot topic spotlight. It is on Ethereals. And these are the two founding members of the Ethereals to talk about the latest news from this exciting project. So dropping just in time for spooky season, Ethereals are 12,345 uniquely hand-drawn interdimensional ghosts randomly generated and minted on the Ethereum blockchain. Their traits are pulled from all reaches of the metaverse and include surprising mashups of cultural references all the way down to super insider rarities. And I will say it once again, after getting some new spooky pajamas for my 3-year-old, I'm seeing way too many overlaps in what's cool in NFTs and what my 3-year-old thinks is cool. We're all getting excited for Halloween.
Yeah, it's a good gauge.
Yeah, welcome, Rad Laser Falcon and Danko.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us on the podcast. It's been an awesome show so far.
Yeah. If a 3-year-old likes something, you're on the right track with your project.
Are you guys as inspired to create some kind of haunted house in Decentraland after the show?
Well, we do have a portion on our roadmap that includes Decentraland, and we hope that we can do it justice. It was one of the very, very first things that we wanted as our bucket list, is to get something in Decentraland. And it was really great listening to Trevor speak on Decentraland and utility and like layering like utility within the space, because I agree wholeheartedly that there's so many PFP projects and that's kind of all it is. And it is kind of like reduced to just trading cards, like online trading cards. And I think there's such a greater opportunity for the space, like an insane amount of opportunity. And I really want to be Trevor's friend, and after hearing him speak and take that into account.
There's a lot of great insight, and more than a haunted house, an amusement park, because that's kind of central to our story for the Ethereals.
Yeah, to be clear, so like our ghosts are just kind of like a construct for what they might be. So it's the closest kind of like human construct to understand the tech of what these beings were actually created to do and how they were created. So to be clear, because we say this all the time in our Discord, that nobody's dead. They're actually eternal. And so their bodies were, pulled apart, recombinated into this form.
The idea was they went to the amusement park, had so much fun, and were obliterated into immortality. And so that's like these ghosts that exist now.
Yeah, there's so the rides are the tech and the fun part, and we're teasing out all this other story, but there's like the beings that created the fun park so there's a series of challenges that you have to go through to be able to ride the rides, and culmination of exiting the park is when you assume your new form. So these are just like kind of human constructs for like understanding this backstory.
And exiting in the park is AKA minting.
Minting and finding out who your ethereal is, and finding out the traits that you may identify with, etc. But they all are unified by fun.
Well, we won't put Trevor on the spot and whether or not he wants to be your friend, but maybe he will be after this discussion is complete.
Yeah, quite possibly. So for someone that isn't familiar with PFP projects, what are ethereals like? What would you explain to somebody that's just kind of new to this space, and how is it different from other projects maybe they've heard about in the news?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit in terms of what the ghosts are. I think one of the main unique things about the ethereal team is we're completely doxed. So there's Rad Laser Falcon and I, but then there's also 7 others on the team. And we started as a community project. The core of our team met on Clubhouse, and we're all NFT artists and collectors. And we saw so many projects happening where we didn't know who was actually making these things. And so, but we're still supporting them. And I mean, one of my avatar right now is an ape, and I love it. And so there's those OG projects in the space that, we're fans of. But we wanted to come together and make something of our own that's both by the community and gives back to the community. And so that's a big part of our project. I think that makes it unique.
Yeah, I think what's exciting to me about it is that, not to date myself too much, but I actually watched the internet get born. My father was he was actually in civil defense, and he would come home with the little briefcase of the internet before the internet was an internet. So I've been in this world since I was really little. And then my first job was kind of in it. And I saw all this potential for the internet, and it just never happened. Kind of like Trevor was saying, his frustration, I was super frustrated. So I kind of left and went into traditional advertising and design because I was so angry actually at saying look at all this opportunity. So what's exciting to me personally, and I think a lot of people on the team, is that here's an opportunity where we don't have to wait for permission. We can kind of construct our own projects and our own utility and our own communities. And it's kind of like our own unique DAOs and ecosystems. So that's what I'm personally super excited about. I would say that we've been really, really lucky about the community that we're building. I thought, having not been involved in community projects, that having been on Nextdoor or Facebook, there's some pretty wild people that show up, but we've only had 2 bots and 0 crazies, and we have a lot of Discord members. We got 1,000 members in 24 hours, which was kind of mind blowing.
It's not surprising to me though. I mean, you've got some real leaders in the space in your team, including JR from ON1 Force. Big fan of that project. Hope to have those guys on at some point soon. I met Strawberry before at our in real life event in LA. A lot of NFT people are in LA, so fortunate for me. But maybe you could just go into a little bit more detail about how you guys are building community around your project. What are the types of things you've done and plan to do in the future? Right.
So early on in the inception of this project, because I work in, my background is branding and things like that, and really looking at perceptual persuasive psychology, brand behavior, motivating factors. So I was thinking, how can we be as absolutely inclusive as we possibly can, because we're building a global community, right? So we've got different income structures, we've got different technology access, we've got different in real life access. So how many touch points can we add value to every single person who might want to be part of our community, even if they can't afford or don't have access to purchasing an ethereal? So one cool thing is we have kind of IRL and virtual events on our Discord. So we've done things like Saturday morning cartoons and movie nights and things like that. We've created mental health channels for people to share their struggles. We've created recipe channels and food pick channels, and it's really cool how all the people in our community are just kind of naturally gravitating to the interests that draw them together as a community. I think because we're all kind of NFT native, we had seen things we wished were part of the utility of other projects, and we're really building the plane as we fly it. We're also taking a lot of insight from the community members, like what they ask for, we give it to them. We've given international channels and all kinds of things like that. We really are listening. And based on some conversations within our community, we reoriented some of our story too, because we just thought it was super cool. And we made that known. We pushed back our launch date to incorporate more story from the community.
That's
even,
really cool.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just curious if Trevor, if this is bringing back any nostalgia from the good old days when you got involved in Decentraland.
Yeah, it sounds, I mean, the landscape is so different today. I'm amazed that you've had only 2 bots and 0 crazies, because that was not at all our experience. But it sounds, just as exciting in many ways. And, one of my questions, I don't know if it's like appropriate to ask questions now, but
Please.
Yeah, sure.
No questions, Trevor.
How do you balance, like, I'm sure that you have such an opinion and like a strong vision for the project, especially being like coming from a brand background and being very like, aesthetically interested, maybe. How do you balance that with really like meaningfully including other people's directions and ideas and making use of the community, not as just a source of monetization, but also like, it is the core of the project. It is a community project.
I think that's a great question. The thing that I think of immediately, it's on a smaller scale, but we talked about the two bots that invaded, and I'm not going to say the name of them because I don't want to, promote them, but we took that as a positive. Like, we embraced it, just like any part of life. When something negative happens, how can you turn that lemon into lemonade? And it turned out to be a really fun thing within their Discord.
So fun.
That this bot had invaded and this stuff had happened. And the community kept asking, is there going to be a trait for the bot? Is there going to be a trait for the bot?
Because it was such an amazing kind of like the community came together to like, let's get this bot, like what's happening? And
so I won't say for certain that there's going to be a trait for the bot, but there'll probably be a trait for the bot. And that's like, and we infuse, like, it's things like that, like infusing it into the story. Like, that's been part of our journey within that Discord in that short period of time. And so it's like embracing that journey, and that's something we want to continue to do as the story evolves and the project evolves.
Yeah, and to add to that, Trevor, I've always tried to break away from this brand thing. Like, I've worked on Fortune 500 companies. I've worked in video games very early in my career and things like that. And I saw that there was this like kind of manipulation of the marketplace, and it was like manipulating what people wanted. And it wasn't necessarily even serving what people wanted. It was like serving trends or serving partnerships or serving all of these other kinds of interests. And it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I thought, I kind of want to quit this line of work. I don't like it. So what I did is I quit working for like one of the second largest ad agency in the world, and for my own agency, focused on social justice, environmental justice, purpose-driven brands. And I've been doing that for, over a decade. But I was getting dissatisfied with that as well. And I wanted to be more involved, actually directly involved with the consumers and the people who would be actually making decisions about this. So that's what got me really excited about this project, and will have me firing all of my clients if this goes well, to focus all of my attention on this, because I feel like consumers have been so siloed by brands and their voices have been so silenced. And I think that if you look politically, if you look economically, we've all been silenced and disenfranchised. So I feel like NFTs are such a great opportunity to give us all back our voices. And the thing I like to say a lot in like tweets and comments and stuff when I'm engaging with people is, as we rise, we lift others. And that's really kind of like the ethos of Ethereals, and what we would like to promote is that as we rise, we lift others. And we're pulling people along with us as we go. And I think that personally, because I'm an artist at heart, he's an artist at heart, like, we're so excited that art has a chance to actually change lives. Like, there's too many extractive economies out there in the world. And I feel like this is one that can be additive to people and have a net positive effect. And that's super exciting to me. And then because I know we're short on time, I just want to mention on that same note, the POAPs that we're creating. So we've already done one for our first in real life event that was in LA not too long ago, where we partnered with Talk Time. I'd love to shout them out. They created this really beautiful project called Crypto Music Box, where there's like a series of I think there's like 5 of them, where the artists also have like a piece of art that's created, and it's really beautiful, and I encourage everybody to check it out. So that was a launch party for them. They were kind enough to invite us along for that. We issued a POAP for that. That POAP will hold future utility for other things to come in the future, and people can build in these POAPs, like to access other things in the future. We won't say yet what all those things are. We want to kind of keep some spoilers secret. But then now we have our second POAP we're really excited about. A good friend of ours who became a friend through Ethereals is a DJ called Kaku, and he's got a nice following. He's very well known, incredible person. And he's going to do DJ set for us on Wednesday of this week. And so anybody who comes to our Discord can then get a POAP for that DJ set, and then again, unlock future utility with that POAP. Why we think this POAP is so important is because, again, you don't have to be an Ethereals holder to access this utility. You just have to be part of our community. You just got to show up, have fun, grab a POAP. We will continue to add POAPs for the community. So what I think is really great about that is, if you think about, like, I can't remember the statistic, it's something like 70% of the world's population, their only access to the internet is through digital mobile phone. You know, they could live in poverty, not have access to all kinds of things that we take for granted in our Western civilization, but we give them a POAP, and then something happens in their neck of the woods. They get access to other things. They get access to giveaways or any other kinds of utility that we can add in the future. So for me, that brings tears to my eyes and, like, chills to think about being able to extend that access to people out in the world, and bring them in along with our fun.
So, that's cool. We talk a lot about community, on the podcast, and how important it is, the narrative, the story, kind of some traditional branding elements. But this is the first episode, I think, where we're really getting into the idea that being an active and contributing part of the community doesn't necessarily mean holding the NFT in question, holding a piece of Decentraland, holding an ethereal. There are ways to really legitimately get involved well beyond just holding that piece, and it's really important. Again, we haven't really gotten into this before, but this isn't just a symbolic involvement, right? We're talking about actual involvement and contribution above and beyond, being a holder of the NFT.
Right. And I mean, it really gets down to like kind of like technological sovereignty. Like, how can we add more of that out into the community without having to like get super invested and maybe following on Twitter, or super invested on Discord, or owning a PFP, or any of these kinds of things that seem like barriers to entry. We really want to focus on inclusivity as much as we can for, like, even so, there's some people who spend a lot of time online that physically can't get out. So we want to be able to bring utility to them. There's people who financially can't travel. There's all kinds of things that we want to make sure that, because we do have a large portion of our team in LA, we will have, just due to our resources and time, and we're in a global pandemic, if we're going to have IRL events, it's unfortunately probably in a lot of ways going to be in LA, but we do want to give that opportunity for community and extend that out. So that's a big part of it. The other thing that's going to be cool for another POAP, for another in real life event, is we will be having our post-launch party at NFT NYC. And so anybody who attends, we will be streaming that as well. So then you'll be able to collect a POAP for streaming. You'll be able to collect a POAP for in real life. And so we will be, we haven't gotten that quite up yet, but we'll have the RSVP for that in an Eventbrite soon for anybody who would like to attend.
That's really cool.
Yeah, appreciate all this great info. And I'm just curious, like, the future of the project. We want to know a little bit about, like, what are the traits going to look like? We know that you got your pre-sale on October 1st. Minting will happen October 7th. But, like, yeah, what do the traits look like, and what does the future of the project look like after launch and minting?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I immediately, as the artist who created the Ethereals, I immediately think art, like there's going to be more art, and I'll immediately start making more art. But it's so much bigger than that. I mean, it's more about the community. Like the art is one of the vehicles to bring the community together and have a point of connection. But the community is the bigger part, and Georgiana can speak on that.
Yeah, so we've kind of teased it out in our roadmap to some extent, but again, part of that is we really want to get more people involved in NFTs. We want to get more people involved in art. We want to make this, we really want to focus on accessibility. So part of that will be giving back to the community through identifying underserved populations, not just in the US, but globally, and saying like, okay, what are tools and technology that we can like give to these other people who are interested in this space? And so identifying, like, say, and I'm not saying any of these names are set in stone, but like identifying like a girls and boys club, identifying, you know, art programs, identifying places I just don't have access, and bringing in access to those places through giving back. And so, you know, everybody knows that JR was a teacher, an art teacher at one point in time. So that was really important to him to have on this roadmap. It's important for us to foster inclusivity. I would encourage everybody to check out our roadmap on our website, ethereals.wtf. WTF stands for Where's the Fun? Just want to be clear. But yeah, so we have some of that like outlined in there, and then there's a component for Decentraland as well. I have to be careful because I'm always on the verge of spoilers. Because I'm so excited about everything.
But in terms of traits, like obviously these are ghosts, and you think of ghosts and Halloween and that kind of stuff. And there are traits that relate to that for sure. But then there's other traits like I've been drawing like nonstop since
May.
Then
End
really,
of May, yeah.
Yeah, from one project and then into this project. And one of the mainstays during that time was coffee. so like just hammering, like hitting that coffee in the morning. And there's a trait, it's been released already. Think of an old like diner pot of coffee that you pour. It's like embedded in the ghost head. It's like half full, and there's like a little tentacle like in the coffee pot. And so there's these things that don't make any sense relative to Halloween or anything like that. But they're fun, and that's where the part of the story of where things are kind of coming together and being recombined in different forms.
Well, I like Halloween because I'm from Salem, Mass, and I like
nice.
coffee, and I like coffee. So I hope I get that ghost.
I
don't know,
hope you
man.
get that ghost too.
It's
And
always
you know,
it's always Peabody, Mass. Josh, come on, what is it? You making it Salem now for this one? I don't know. I don't know how close they are, but
lived
come
in
on.
Peabody, I lived in Salem, I lived in Danvers,
right.
but I did at one point interview the original famous witch of Salem, Laurie Cabot. You can look that up. When I was like
Nice.
5 years old, I interviewed her for my local kid newspaper. That was pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Well, I do hope all the background of these inside stories and traits and whatnot do come out, because again, narrative and community matters so much, you know, and I think people would really appreciate those stories.
Yeah, there's definitely inside stories to some of the traits. I'm excited to share that part. Like,
Yeah, we can't wait for Mint because we just want to see how they come together. You know, like we've been fast and furious on metadata and naming and trait combos and rarity and all that stuff. So, and we just like spend so much time really just like laughing our heads off at the ridiculousness of what Danko's creating.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. Well, thanks so much for joining us today to talk about it. It was really
Thank
fun.
you.
We're
Thank
excited to chat with you. I think we're actually going to also do a little fun contest, a giveaway for joining the Ethereal community, and we'll talk a little bit about it on our socials here as we refine the details. But for our listeners, you know, keep an eye out and dig in on it. So these designs are amazing, and the project is so much fun. So please check it out.
Thank you for having us. It was really wonderful, and it was great hearing Trevor speak. And I'm super was interested before. Now I'm like gonna go down a major rabbit hole.
Amazing. All right. Thank you again.